beyond samsara, where one may pursue the bodhisattva path to enlightenment more easily. At the same time, in some Mahayana schools of thought, these Buddhas and bodhisattvas may Brought to you by Wondrium. Pure Land Buddhism is likely the most prevalent and diverse expression of Buddhism in the world. And yet, among many popular writers and scholars in the English-speaking world, Pure Land Buddhism is also among the least studied and thus most misunderstood form of Buddhism in the world. So today we're going to answer, what is Pure Land Buddhism? Pure Land Buddhism is an aspect of Mahayana Buddhism, which, if you remember from episode 1 in this series, is one of the main branches of Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhists emphasize the bodhisattva path. The word bodhisattva means enlightened being and indicates a practitioner who strives not just for their own awakening, but also to become a Buddha so they can guide other beings to awakening as well. Therefore, the bodhisattva path was often said to take much longer, lasting countless lifetimes over limitless eons. However, diverse Mahayana traditions promote practices that are said to shorten the path considerably. The Pure Land approach to the Bodhisattva path is one of these approaches. It seems that in the early Buddhist environment, between when the Buddha taught and the first sutras were written down, some Buddhists came to believe that beyond our world of death and rebirth, there exist limitless, purified realms with living Buddhas and Bodhisattvas presently teaching. And through different forms of meditation, one may encounter these beings in the form of visionary experiences. These purified realms inhabited by cosmic Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are not heavens, and these beings are not gods. According to the traditional Buddhist worldview, heavens are still in samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth, and these enlightened beings live and teach in worlds beyond samsara, where one may pursue the Bodhisattva path to enlightenment more easily. At the same time, in some Mahayana schools of thought, these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas may also be thought of as expressions of awakening, ultimate reality, as symbolic forms for deeper truths about our place within the universe. In that sense, these Pure Lands are not so far away after all. These other worlds that we call Pure Lands in English comes from a literal reading of the Chinese term Jingtu, which is one of several translations of the Sanskrit term Buddhakashetra, or Buddha sphere. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are said to purify their spheres of influence, hence which is one of several translations of the Sanskrit term Buddhakashetra, or Buddha sphere. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are said to purify their spheres of influence, hence Pure Land. We can think of these different Pure Lands as a Mahayana multiverse, and this multiverse is sometimes also referred to by the phrase Pure Lands of the 10 directions, the 8 cardinal directions on a compass, as well as above and below. The historical origin for this Pure Land teaching is hard to pin down with any certainty. Buddhist sutras were originally written down in Pali and Sanskrit, but due to a variety of reasons, ranging from the humid climate to periods of political instability, often the earliest evidence we have for any particular sutra comes from later Chinese translations. Buddhist scriptures claim to be the teaching of the Buddha, but some are demonstrably quite late. That said, many of the elements we associate with Mahayana Buddhism and Pure Land Buddhism in particular actually evolved within a diverse early Buddhist environment, to which we have little to no historical access. Whatever the original context was for the production of Mahayana Sutras, our earliest sources, as we have them today, already take the Pure Land cosmology for granted. The most popular Pure Land in Mahayana Buddhism, often simply referred to as the Pure Land, is the Pure Land of Sukhavati, the land of bliss. The Buddha who resides in Sukhavati is named Amitabha or Amitayus. What you're looking at here on screen is the Great Buddha of Kamakura, a huge statue at the Kotoku-in Buddhist temple in Japan. But many people don't realize that this is a statue of Amitabha. More on this Buddha a bit later. As with the concept of nirvana, some Buddhists tend to think of the Pure Land Sukhavati as fundamentally beyond our world, as a concrete place outside of samsara where you can be reborn to pursue the bodhisattva path and achieve nirvana more easily. For Mahayana Buddhists, Sukhavati largely serves as a generic afterlife destination, as Sukhavati and the Buddha Amitabha are presented in literally hundreds of sutras and the ritual manuals known as tantras. However, some Mahayana Buddhists also also sees Sukhavati as a mythic symbol for the unity of samsara and nirvana, and the nature of awakening itself as a dynamic force active within this world and within the minds of beings. In other words, the Pure Land is another way of talking about nirvana, and from the perspective of an enlightened being, it's really here and now. For many Mahayana texts and traditions, these two perspectives, the Pure Land as a generic post-mortem destination and the Pure Land as a symbol for the unity of nirvana and samsara, actually function together. It goes something like this. From the perspective of a fully enlightened being like the Buddha, this world and nirvana are really one and the same. But for us ordinary beings who are not yet fully awakened, we require myth, symbol, ritual, meditation, and art to transform our misguided perception of reality, to see things in a new way, to see things as they really are. This doesn't mean that the Pure Lands are just imaginary. Rather, the teachings and practices of Mahayana Buddhism are said to transform what we think we mean by real or imaginary in the first place, so that we may come to see things like a Buddha and become free from suffering and anxiety. While Sukhavati is perhaps the most popular Pure Land, Mahayana Buddhist texts present a diverse pantheon of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, each with their own Pure Land. Remember, it's like a multiverse. For example, the Buddha was often described as a great doctor, capable of providing a teaching that would serve as a remedy for whatever affliction one may have. This idea of the Buddha as a doctor seems to have given rise to the idea of a medicine Buddha. The medicine Buddha's Pure Land is said to be filled with the gemstone lapis lazuli and exists to the east of our world, remembering from earlier that these Pure Lands are often described as the Pure Lands of the 10 directions. The medicine Buddha is associated with healing rituals in this life and spiritual healing in the next life, and was especially popular among the kings of Tibet, China, Korea, and Japan. One of the many benefits said to arise from being reborn in this Pure Land is that once you're in the medicine Buddha's Pure Land, you can more easily travel to the Pure Land of Amitabha. Another example is Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, who is one of the attendants of Amitabha Buddha in Sukhavati, and arguably one of the most popular objects of devotion in the Mahayana Buddhist world. The Pure Land of Avalokiteshvara is Potalaca. Many locations have been associated with Potalaca, including the Potala Palace in Tibet, which is the former home of the Dalai Lama, as well as Mount Pua in China. The Bodhisattva Kshitigarbha, known as Jizo in Japanese, is regarded as the protector of children and travelers, and is often depicted as a plainly dressed monk, while most other bodhisattvas have elaborate jewelry. This plain dress indicates that instead of building a Pure Land, Jizo's Bodhisattva remains in the 6 realms of samsara to guide beings to a better rebirth, perhaps in Sukhavati. Maitreya Bodhisattva, the next Buddha for our world, is revered by those who may aspire to be reborn in Tushta, the heaven where Maitreya currently lives. In the Mahayana tradition, because Maitreya is almost a Buddha, Tushta is almost a Pure Land. In East Asian Buddhism, Maitreya Bodhisattva is often depicted as the jovial monk, Budai. Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, is said to have entered the Bodhisattva path through the practice of Buddha contemplation, a practice commonly associated with Pure Land Buddhism. So as you can see from these examples, Mahayana Buddhism has an expansive pantheon of Buddhas, such as Amitabha Buddha and the Medicine Buddha, as well as a host of Bodhisattvas on the cusp of awakening, like Avalokiteshvara and Manjushri. These Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are sometimes presented as superhero-like beings, helping those of us stuck in the realm of death and rebirth along the path to awakening. For example, in the 25th chapter of Lotus Sutra, it is said that if beings call upon Avalokiteshvara, you will be saved. If you've been imprisoned, call upon this Bodhisattva and the bars of the prison will disappear. If you're falling from a great height and call upon this Bodhisattva, you will be suspended in the air. At other times, these beings are understood to be symbolic expressions of awakening itself, within and all around beings. The Bodhisattva of compassion can thus serve as a symbol for love and compassion within human relationships. Let's turn back now to arguably the most popular Pure Land, Sukhavati, or the Land of Bliss, and its associated Buddha, Amitabha. The grand cosmic mythical drama of the Buddha Amitabha is presented in the Sukhavati Vyuha Sutra, datable to the 1st or 2nd century CE, though elements of the sutra may stretch back further. This sutra tells the story of how, countless eons ago, a king renounced their throne to pursue the bodhisattva path with a Buddha named Lokeshvara Raja. This bodhisattva was named Dharmakara, which means storehouse of the Dharma, and he wished to create the perfect Pure Land so all beings could achieve awakening. Upon achieving Buddhahood, this being came to be known by 2 names, Amitabha, limitless light, and Amitayus, limitless life. As a symbol for limitless light and life, this Buddha signifies the universality of wisdom and compassion as fundamental dynamic aspects of awakening. In the Sukhavati Vyuha Sutra, as is common across Mahayana sutras in general, Bodhisattva Dharmakara makes a series of vows. One of these vows states that if beings think upon, or simply call upon the name of this Buddha even 10 times, they'll be able to attain rebirth in the Pure Land in their next life and achieve awakening. Based on these vows, many Mahayana Buddhists, laypeople and monastics alike, have made contemplation of Amitabha in the Pure Land, and even just the simple recitation of the name of this Buddha, a central part of their Buddhist practice, especially as a deathbed practice. In esoteric or tantric Buddhist texts, there's also numerous spells and mantras, as well as mandalas or mandalic depictions of the Pure Land said to lead to rebirth in the Pure Land.